Rugby returns to Croke Park on Champions Cup semi-finals weekend. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Okay, so this is going to be a fairly quick one, well, for me, just to get my initial thoughts out there on the semi-finals that we have coming this weekend. I am going to do a preview of each of the games separately once we have the teams out, etc. So we're going to go dive more into depth into that one. We're just going to kind of do high-level stuff for this one. So first of all, we're going to start with the Leinster Northampton Saints semi-final. This one is on Croke Park in Dublin. It's on Saturday 4th of May. Kickoff is 5:30. Was it? Is it? Yeah, it must be BST now, right? I think we've switched over. But yeah, it's a really exciting game between two historically really big teams in this tournament as well, and first return to Croke Park since it's got to be the end of like, was it 2009 was the last time that there was any rugby played there. But it is a big occasion. It's a great honor for rugby to play in such a brilliant stadium as well. I've been there on other occasions, not for rugby, but I've been there for other things as well. And it's just brilliant atmosphere, and just an amazing stadium as well to be there. If you don't know why, the reason is because the Aviva, so Lansdowne Road, is hosting the final of the Europa League soccer on the 22nd, and I think that's what it is, right? And they're getting prepared for that or something like that. It's something like that. Anyway, the Aviva is out of action, so they can't use that. So we get to go to Croke Park, which is not a bad thing. Brilliant place to go. And they sold out the ground as well in, what was it, less than 24 hours. I think it was 3 hours after it went on general sale. Like, there was obviously the season ticket holders, etc. had the first whatever, I don't know how many hours they had, but 3 hours after it went on general sale, then the whole thing was sold out. So it's 82,300 tickets, and that says a lot for rugby in Ireland, I think, because we've had people, especially in the English media, complaining about the fact that the round of 16 and the quarterfinals were too close together in terms of being able to sell out fixtures. And then also to think about that, like that Leinster sold out the Aviva against La Rochelle. Like, La Rochelle, a big draw though, in fairness, but then to be able to then go back to the Well and sell out Croke Park as well after that is just amazing. And it shows as well that the amount of support that Leinster have built up over the years, because I remember going to games in Donnybrook where it was a few thousand there, at certain games, etc. Like, and that was a big crowd at that stage, and then if we had big games in Europe, we'd move them to the RDS. So to go from that to basically RDS being the home ground and moving bigger games to the Aviva and to Croke Park just shows how much Leinster have really worked at growing the crowd, because historically it's always been Munster have been, in Ireland have been the team that have outstripped everyone else in terms of support. But I think Leinster are really getting up there now. And to be able to do that, I think is fantastic, and it's something that I hope that the Munster, as said, are already there, I think, with their support base. But I'd love to see Ulster and Connacht doing the same as well, growing that. Obviously, Connacht, redeveloping the sports ground there, with the view to attracting more fans over time, and then you got Ulster up there in the Kingspan as well, that, I want to see them filling their grounds, every time that they play there, and then having the same thing of thinking, well, actually this next game is going to be too big. It's just somewhere we can move it to. Now, it's a bit more difficult, because all the large stadiums in Ireland, or most of the large stadiums, say, in Ireland, are in Dublin, or they're in Munster as well. So, there are options there, but again, it's going to take negotiations, etc. But it might be a little bit of a headache, but I want those teams to have that headache, to say, okay, well, our ground now isn't actually big enough for the support that we've built, and that would be, I think, a brilliant problem for them to have. But yeah, so it's Leinster, who are now second in the URC, dropped down from top spot there at the weekend, with Glasgow pipping them, and Leinster just getting taken apart by the Stormers. Yes, they did send a second team over, etc. And personally, I don't agree with that. I would rather have seen, a lot of these boys who've been in camp now for the last couple of weeks preparing for this game actually go down there, and whether they played just one of the games, or whether they played, like, even just put them on for 40 minutes or something, I'd rather see them playing than potentially being rusty for this game. So I'm not sure about that. Last year they did the same thing. The team that they sent last year was much weaker though than the team that went this year, because they decided to have two separate squads training back in Dublin, with a completely separate squad for the URC and a separate squad then for the Champions Cup. So this year, at least, there's more mingling between the what I call the URC squad and the Champions Cup squad, which is like the capped Ireland Test players, etc. So we're seeing more players breaking into that this year, and I think that's something that gives me a little bit more confidence about how things are going to go this year. But playing against Northampton Saints, who are the leaders at the moment in the Premiership. It's been a long time since the Saints have gotten this far in Europe. They used to be a big powerhouse in Europe, and there's a lot of memorable games between them, like quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals against both Leinster and Munster. So seeing them there again kind of brings back obviously memories. People will go back to that famous final with the, it looked like it was over in favour of Northampton Saints at half time, and Leinster turned it around so quickly in that second half. Famous speech from Johnny Sexton, etc., in the changing room. So this feels like it's going to be a bit of an epic battle. I know a lot of people are saying Leinster will be nailed on favourites for it, and yes, they are, but it doesn't mean that they're going to have it all their own way. And we've seen Leinster going into games at semi-finals or finals being favourites and still coming out on the losing side. So it's not kind of written in stone that they're going to win. I think this is going to be a fantastic game. One thing just to mention as well, Leinster, the only URC representative in the semi-final, and we have to go back to 2019 until to find the last URC representative that wasn't Leinster that made the semi-final. That year, both Leinster and Munster made the semi-final. I think did Saracens win it that year? I think Saracens beat Munster in the semi-final and probably Leinster in the final that year. But that's the last time that we had a team that wasn't Leinster in the semi-final. And the year before as well, I think both were in the semi-finals again. And Munster, they've always had a proud tradition in this competition, so I'd love to see them kind of next year getting to this stage as well, and maybe pushing on beyond that too. Obviously, as a Leinster fan, I don't want to see it at the expense of Leinster, but I do want to see them back up there at the heights that I kind of feel, having grown up really watching Munster in this competition, that it feels like that's Munster's place. If it were, not saying like that they it's some kind of God-given right. Well, I don't believe in God for first things, but it just feels like it's because of the passion and the importance they put on this competition that now we see that Munster are improving as a squad and as a team, and they've got like some silverware again that next year or maybe the year after we're going to see them pushing on further in Europe, and it would be great to see because, as I said, it's a long time, 5 years, with Leinster being the only URC team making the semi-finals. And then if we go back again, the last non-Irish semi-finalists, that was that, I think it was Edinburgh, right, in 2012. Let me just double check. Yeah, it was Edinburgh in 2012, and that year we had Ulster playing Edinburgh in one semi-final and Clermont playing Leinster in another one. And Clermont, like, they're another team who they so much passion for this competition, and they used to, like, every year be thereabouts. Never quite got their hands on the trophy, but just seeing the passion they had for this competition was brilliant. And then that was a year that Leinster went on then to beat Ulster in the final, but Edinburgh, the last URC team or top or Pro 14 or wherever, Pro 12, Celtic League, etc. team to make the semi-finals of this competition that weren't from Ireland, or actually weren't even Leinster or Munster. So yeah, I'd like to see more URC teams making it to this stage. I think with the South African teams, there's a good chance, if they take it seriously, I'm going to come on to that in a second, that they could be the next group of teams to start making semi-finals as well. But yeah, this is a good matchup. If we look back at their quarterfinals, so Leinster with that brilliant win against La Rochelle, finally getting that monkey off their back in the knockout stages. But and I think some people were kind of jumping the gun a little bit and almost putting Leinster's name on the trophy. They've got a tough semi-final against a really decent Saints side here, and they shouldn't really be looking beyond that at all, I think, at the minute. Saints, they played a weakened Bulls team. Bulls deciding to prioritise their game against Munster in the URC, and that didn't work out well for them either. They lost that game, but yeah, Saints pretty easy win in the quarterfinals. But I think the reason why, well, the Bulls, a lot of reasons why the Bulls sent a weakened team, but part of it was the fact that Saints probably would have won even against a full strength Bulls, given that they had home advantage and given the travel arrangements that the Bulls had to put up with as well. So decent from them. They're still top of the Premiership despite losing to Quins last weekend as well. So both teams actually coming in to this on the back of defeats, albeit that the Leinster team who play in this game, I don't think any of them will have been involved in the South African tour. But still, just the mood around the camp as well, with those boys coming back into camp now after being down to South Africa, and on the back of that, yes, there'll be excitement from the the fact that you're building up to a special semi-final at Croke Park, but also you have those lads coming in having taken a couple of spankings down in South Africa as well, so not the best preparation maybe in terms of those guys coming back in into training, etc. But Leinster, they've got to lift themselves from that. Saints as well, they've had a fantastic season. I think both teams in terms of that, like that, they've had defeats this year. Leinster a little bit few more than we're normally used to seeing them in the regular season, but I think Leinster have been better at bouncing back this year than they were last year as well. So expecting a bounce from both of the teams and expecting a really tough semi-final as well. But I think Leinster, given the occasion that it is, the fact it's at Croke Park as well, I think that will help focus these Leinster players on this and not like kind of almost like dismissing Northampton and looking forward to the final. I think this on its own is a hugely special occasion for them, and for a lot of these players it's probably the only time that they're going to get to play in Croke Park. Same for Northampton as well, but for them it's just going to be a special occasion in terms of it's a stadium, the stadium itself, but for Leinster it's just the history of the stadium and its connection to Irish sport as well. And I think is really going to G them up. And I think Leinster are going to be ready for this. And because of that, I think they're going to take out the win in that first semi-final. On to the second semi-final then. So this one is on Sunday, 5th of May. It's Stade Toulouse versus Harlequins. And this one is at 3 o'clock kickoff. It's in the Stadium de Toulouse. We had a lot of, a lot of articles written in the English press about the fact that Leinster got to have home advantage, even though Croke Park is not their home. But nothing about the fact that Toulouse are playing in their home stadium for this one. So, a bit kind of skewed there on the reporting. But again, another fantastic semi-final, and two teams who love to throw the ball around as well. And, Quins come into this one, first of all, from their semi-final, that brilliant, or quarter-final, sorry, brilliant win away there against Bordeaux Begla. Bordeaux Begla were really on a hot streak coming from the pool stages. They were amazing. They absolutely destroyed Saracens in the round of 16 game, and then everybody was expecting them to progress into the semi-final, but Quins had other ideas, and it's just that their ability to just throw caution to the wind and keep attacking that kept them in the game and ultimately got them the win as well. But in this one, they're coming up against if you think that they're kind of batshit crazy in terms of the way they play, Toulouse are the masters of that as well. So we're going to have two teams who love to throw the ball around, but Toulouse maybe have that little bit more experience. This again is Harlequins' first semi-final at this level. Their win in the round of 16 was their first win in Champions Cup knockout games as well. So that could go one way or the other for them, right? That you have one kind of thing where maybe the occasion gets to them and Toulouse just beat them with their experience, or Quins don't have that fear. It's just kind of, maybe we'll never get here again as a team, so let's just give it a real go. And that's when we see Harlequins at their best, is when they just, as I said, throw caution to win and just go all out attack. So you could see this being a really high scoring affair, but again, Toulouse have those weapons to be able to counter that. And also I think in terms of their pack, their set piece as well, they've got another little edge there. But coming into this, we talked about Quins on their semi-final, that brilliant result that they had against Bordeaux Begla, and then Toulouse just absolutely wiped the floor with Exeter. Exeter, a bit of a surprise package, honestly, this year, making the quarterfinal, because last year they made it all the way to the semi-final, and they lost to La Rochelle in that semi-final, but they stuck in there all the way through last year and had some really close games, went to extra time in one of them as well, and just did brilliantly to get all the way through, but then came up short against La Rochelle. But this year was a surprise simply because that squad that was there last year are mostly gone, and they completely rebuilt, and everybody was thinking, well, Exeter now are going to have maybe a few years, in the wilderness, maybe losing at the pool stages, going at the pool stages, etc. But they didn't. They did really well, got themselves to a quarter final. But for this kind of new squad, it was a bit of a step too far, and it really was a brilliant performance from Toulouse as well in that one. And then we had Dupont just coming back into the team and just being his imperial best as well. So Toulouse coming in on the back of a brilliant quarterfinal themselves, and then so you got both teams. These into the other semi-final, both teams coming in on the back of losses in their domestic league. These two teams coming on the back of wins. Toulouse having handily beaten Racing 92 in top 14, and Quins having beaten Northampton in their one as well. I think that one was at Twickenham, right? If I'm not mistaken. I think it was one that they moved there especially. So, well done to Quins for that as well. Upsetting the league leaders there. I think they're 5th in the league at the moment. Toulouse are 2nd. So only the Saints, actually, of all the semi-finalists, are actually currently top of their domestic league. As I said, Leinster fell down to 2nd. Toulouse are in 2nd. They're only 2 points behind. Is it Stade Francais are the leaders, I think, at the minute, and then Quins, I think, are 5th in the Premiership. But you're looking at this again and you think, well, Toulouse, they got all that experience. They are the kings of Europe for a reason. They have an amazing team as well, and Quins do have some brilliant players themselves, but just weighing everything out, you've got to say it's probably going to be a Toulouse win. But you would have said that in the quarterfinal as well against Bordeaux-Bègles, that Bordeaux had that just amazing backline, and all of those performances leading up to that would have said that they win that game, but it didn't turn out that way. So Quins know they can upset the apple cart in this one. I think, though, this would be an absolutely massive upset for them, just because Toulouse are so assured and in this competition at home. In terms of player for player, yes, Quins have some brilliant players, but you would say that Toulouse have the better squad, and then all of that experience as well in this competition, not just in the current squad, but kind of historically through the stadium, that kind of are through the whole club, that kind of it's in their bones. It's in their DNA to do well and to win in this competition. Quins don't have that, but again, maybe that little bit of naivety will actually count well for them, because they don't know what it's like to go into a semi-final and lose, and maybe again, sometimes you can be better off going in like that, where nobody's giving you a chance, and you're just lying there and wait, and then you just spring that trap and you get the win. So it's always the possibility for Quins, especially because of the way they play. That, like with Marcus Smith at 10 and some of the players they have as well, just to be able to turn it on like that. They can score in bursts as well, which is very important in this kind of game. You're not going to they're not going to beat Toulouse by just kind of tipping, scoring in threes and getting the odd try. It's probably going to be having a purple patch, maybe getting a few tries against the run of play, etc. That's, I think, their route to the final. But again, Toulouse, just they're one of the most complete teams in the world, not just in Europe, and if they perform, I expect them to win. So just as a recap, first semi-final, I think it's going to be a Leinster win, but it's going to be a tough one for them. Toulouse in the second semi-final, I think they're going to win, and it's going to be really exciting because there's just going to be tries all over the place, and there's going to be some worldly tries scored in this one as well. I think some of the skills that are going to be on display from players on both teams are just going to be breathtaking, I think. So it's a really great weekend of rugby to look forward to, I feel. And as I said, probably tomorrow if teams are out. If not, on Friday we'll have previews of each of the games, and then I will also have reviews of each of the games on the days that they happen. So Saturday for Leinster, Northampton, and then Sunday for Toulouse and Harlequins, and then probably on Monday we'll have a recap then of the semi-finals. So plenty of Champions Cup action to look forward to.